Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and welcome back to FM24 Youth Factory, episode 67. Survival in the championship is starting to look a bit more likely. I've gone a full month into the future from the end of the transfer deadline now to the end of February. Team overall is performing a little bit better. Development is not rapid, but development is occurring. There's more athletes that have moved from maybe barely 110 or even just shy of 110 into those upper close to 120s. And so with a little more depth playing at or near championship level, we now have, I'd say, somewhere around Lanahan, Penreese to Sam Lines, Chris Webb area is now suitable. And then a few more guys, Lee Ward, Hassel, Walker, McFadden, that are all really close to that championship level where collectively, and when you throw in the tactics, we're just about okay. And as we had a couple players very upset about not being allowed to transfer out, and then there was a bunch of team members that were supporting those couple of guys, well, one of them, Hewitt, is now happy again. He is performing better lately, and he's gotten over it. He's got 10 goals on the season now, equal with Lanahan Penreese to lead the team, and that was enough for him. And especially now that it's looking like we're surviving and we're a championship club, it's been enough that he's moved on. He's over it. And now that he's over it, that handful of players that were supporting him in his desire to leave, they're over it. So while morale is not completely fixed, Sam Lines, Chris Webb, Steve Walker, some of the guys are still just okay. Right? It's not great morale in the locker room, but it's certainly better than it was. Phil Hewitt's back to superb. Sam Julian is at superb. Adekunle, Jones. There's a number of happy players in the club, and there's a lot of okay. There's nothing too bad right now. Nothing too atrocious. So it's making a difference. And, a guy like Marley Whitehouse, who was mid-80s at the start of the season's now a 98. Or maybe he had hit about 90, but he's a 98 now. He's gone from, the bottom of the list to being a good, suitable backup who now has 2 starts and 9 appearances off the bench. And after I did my vacation, I came back from that. I had forgotten completely who Whitehouse even was. And I was like, who's this guy getting an appearance off the bench? And then I turned around the next game and put him in, realizing who he was. Overall average ratings for the season are still not good. But recently, form has started to pick up. Enough so that our month of February went a bit like this. We opened with a draw against Watford, a penalty saving us in that one. Not a very good performance, but it was a point, and especially after a bit of a rough stretch through January, a point is certainly welcome. But then we go and get a big surprise win against Derby County, aided by a penalty, a 3-0 halftime lead that we were able to hang on to. Overall of the performance, you very much see a mixed bag of some players did well, some players not so well. So you'd probably say the result was kind of fortunate. But then at home against Hull, in what was probably one of our more winnable matches on the calendar for the month, a pretty poor performance from the team will see us lose very late on. Disappointing not to at least get a point in that, but when you're looking at the performance of the club, of the players, outside of, say, McCartney, nobody in the back performed well. And Archie Jones and Lanahan Penreese might have gotten goals, but they still didn't have good ratings, considering. And so one player led the way for us, and everybody else struggled a bit. To then turn around and have our worst performance of the month by far. Everton beating us 3-0. They get an early penalty. They get a couple late goals to really seal the deal. And this was another one of those. It wasn't all bad. Sam Lyons was having a good match, but he just could not get the support. And across the board, the team was pretty poor. Even Lanahan Penreese getting a below 6 rating showed just how much of a struggle. But when you, on balance, say, hey, it's 3-0, it's Everton with the biggest payroll in the championship, I believe. looking at that, it really could have been a lot worse. 3-0 sounds bad. 3-0 would generally be really bad ratings, and only one player fell below 6. So we seem to be in the game throughout most of it. Obviously deserved to lose, but didn't get blown away, and the scoreline might be a little bit harsh, especially considering it was on the road. And so we turn around and bounce back with a win against Sheffield Wednesday. Christopher Joseph with the brace, one to get us the winner, a second laid on to seal the deal. And looking at the ratings, it looks like we probably should have had more than what we got out of this game. And then definitely our most comprehensive game of the month. Good, strong ratings throughout most of the team. A 4-1 victory, even though 2 of those goals came pretty late, but Phil Hewitt gave us a second-minute go-ahead goal, similar to what I just witnessed with my Portland Thorns in game last night against Club Tijuana. Anyway, Steve Walker gets a brace in this one, 8.4 rating, and things are looking on the up. And the only injury that's popped up the whole month was Ben Hassel off the bench, picking up a knock. But as for that knock, we're only talking about a couple days for Hassel to get back to full strength. A good month in terms of points, in terms of the overall performance, in terms of the health of the club, in terms of improving the morale. We went through some really dark stretches in this season, and then we've had a couple months where we really got things rolling. And is it enough to call safety yet? Not quite, but 15 points clear of the drop with a dozen games left to play. It's starting to look pretty dang good. Millwall still hasn't gotten off the bottom of the standings. In fact, they would be in the relegation zone regardless right now. That was entirely what we expected at the beginning of the year from Fulham, and yet Fulham is at the opposite end. They would be third, if not, and they're just a couple points shy. They're very much catching Stoke at this point and could find themselves in the promotion playoff zone regardless of their deduction. We're definitely not showing up on any of the leaders' charts, but that's okay. This season was always going to be about survival, and it was looking really bad for quite some time, and now we're getting late into the season going, hey, we're doing just fine. I was kind of hoping to be here by next season and just survive this season and, start clawing your way up and have it take a few years, because it just seemed like it really does feel at this point that the championship is about where this experiment can take us, right? Without any outside signings. And especially as a championship club, good players are going to be poached by Premier League sides, and it's going to be hard to hold them off. And the reputation's only going to grow so much. The facilities are only going to get so good. Making the climb to the Premier League does not feel inevitable at all. It feels like, actually, for a long time, it seemed like this experiment was one that would stall out at either League One or League Two. And I've seen other content creators do a similar experiment to this one, even without transfer bans, and seen them stall out because you can't build the reputation enough to finish the climb. So it already felt like championship was going to be a bit of a stretch. And then we go and make championship, and the way we were struggling earlier in the year, I was kind of doing the, I think we're about as far as we're going to get with this, and we're climbing higher. That goal differential certainly improved. The performances have improved, and we're getting into that late season. And if we can stabilize, even just here, we don't have to keep climbing, but if we could stabilize here as a lower mid-table kind of team, that is a huge achievement. How much more can we do? Development has slowed massively with our players, and I'm just not sure what more there is to get or achieve, and I'm not sure that you could ever overcome the Crystal Palaces, the Evertons of the world. Everton might be 15th right now, struggling, but that payroll, they might struggle, but there's half a dozen other teams ready to pick up the mantle to yo-yo between Championship and Premier League, and we're also at a stage where we're caught in no man's land. We're in the championship, but we still lack the reputation. And the Premier League sides are always still going to get the majority of the best players. We have the facilities, but how much better are the intakes going to get? We are in the championship now, so there is the chance that this intake will be better than what we've seen before, but reality is the year one intake is always the best, and it always falls off after that. Year one is a bit of an anomaly, the way it doesn't calculate everything, and I'd say probably the three best players we've ever had all came in that year one intake. Ever since, the story has been very, very similar. The tier you play in, the reputation you have, the training facilities all do play a role in those intakes. And technically our intakes have gotten better on the current ability side, not on the potential side. Now we're more consistently, since we've brought up those other aspects that I was just mentioning, those variables, as we've improved in that department, the general part of the intake has been better. We went from getting 1 to 2 players that were at that higher level to getting 6, 7 players. So the depth side of our intakes has improved. The current ability, how good they are initially, has gotten better. But the high end, the elite, that 1 to 2 players in the class that are going to come out and potentially be a wonder kid. We've never had one labeled as a wonder kid, and part of that's been the level and maybe championship. Maybe we're finally at that position where that could happen. But I doubt it. I doubt that it's changed. Just the way the game is structured, the way the game is built. I still see us being caught in kind of an endless cycle here, and I'm not sure we're ever going to get above championship. I think we can get above media predictions of 23rd, and I think we can slowly climb the ladder, but how well are we going to, long term, hang on to these players? And not just be in a revolving door of, your 2 best guys are out this year, and you've got 2 more good players coming in your intake, and you've replaced from other previous intakes those 2 players, and, slow climb up the championship. But I'm not sure we are built to ever break the mold and get to the Premier League. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the insane amount of money we can get from being at this level and selling players by millions of dollars could get the last step, get us up to, the last 2 upgrades to get the training facilities to max, and stabilizing in the championship could see that reputation grow by another star and a half, and get to a reputation similar to those around us and get better intakes to get us to climb to the Premier League. But it feels like this is where things are going to stall out. It does have that feel, but we are stable, and that is a huge step, because I really feared we were going to get relegated this season, and then I might just call it done with a similar statement to what I'm giving now. I think we are going to be safe, and maybe we have at least 1 more year in us to see where and how it evolves. Are we going to do what we've done the previous times? Because we've stalled out and then turned around and promoted. We've stalled out and turned around and promoted. We've gone from 20th to 2nd. This year, we've already gone from relegation zone to more mid-table mediocrity. So, maybe as you continue progressing, maybe I'm completely wrong, and maybe we are climbing to 2nd. I just think the gap in the championship, top to bottom, is significantly larger than the gap for League 1 teams or the gap for League 2 teams. On paper, our intake looks terrible. We'll see if the players are actually that bad here shortly. However, let's throw this theory out there first. The Premier League sides are loaded with near perfect facility youth setups. Championship has some really good youth setups and are not far from the level of those Premier League sides. Now, it's not the entire championship, but there is those yo-yo teams, your Evertons have excellent youth setups. prior to reaching the championship, from year 1 of this series to League 1 of this series, we have far and away been the best youth setup. We are not far and away the best youth setup in the championship. We are the best. We have those perfect facilities. But I just mentioned other factors, other variables. Now, draw back to League 1, on back down to that first year of this series. We have been best of the rest. Period. The end. No other competitors. Best of the rest versus one of the best has reared its ugly head. I think this is my running theory on how this one has worked. When we were best of the rest, there are some of the best players that come through when the intake is determined, when that's broken out and those thousands of players disperse. The Premier League sides are going to get the majority of the best players. Championship are going to get the majority of the remaining players. But not all. And there's going to be a few players that don't get assigned to any of those big clubs. And as the hands down easy selection for the best of the rest, regardless of level, we were picking up all of the best of the rest. But this year, we're in a different position. Now we're in the championship. Now we are surrounded by some really good teams with really good youth setups that are only just behind what we have. So now other variables start to kick in on where players are assigned. And our massive lack of reputation. Our training facilities that aren't as good as some of the teams around us. And staff that is not up to the level of them either because of a lack of reputation. We can't get better staff. That combination of factors, in theory, have now reared its ugly head and seen us lose out to other championship clubs for the bulk of the best players available falling in. Somebody else, for the first time in all of these years, in that best of the rest, that leftover couple of players, it's gone to other clubs, League 1 and below. We are now directly in a head-to-head battle with the championship clubs for a pretty dang good pool, but a pool that's smaller than the Premier League pool, and with that competition and those variables is seeing us lose out. That's my theory, and herein lies a real problem, because I was hoping for a stronger intake. It looks like we've gotten the worst intake we've ever had in this series. I don't think that's actually going to be the case. I do think we are going to have players that are 100 plus in here, but are any of them going to be good enough for this level eventually? Well, we've got a youth intake game ahead of us to find out, and then we'll go check that out. But this could be the second nail in the coffin for this series of a potential stall out at championship level. So we're going to get match highlights for this one, as the game was canceled and rescheduled, and upon the rescheduling of the game, it went and took place without me, without giving me the option to even want to attend. I suppose there may have been something I could have clicked to get it, but comprehensive highlights of this game. So the youth candidates are in the green and black today, with the U18s in purple. The U18s have some players at the bottom end of their roster who have been a bit slow on the development side but have potential. Otherwise, the vast majority of the U18s are in the mid-70s to a near 90 current ability. We have no idea about the candidates just yet. I don't know any one of them. I really just saw that the overall theme was average. I did see at least kind of the table that they showed of a good third of the candidates were considered not good. about a third, just shy of the other two parts of this chart. The middle group, the okay candidates, was a little bit on that lower side, and then just over a third of them were on the better end. But there were nothing in a fourth elite category. It was just good, or definitely not good. So we do seem to be a bit lacking here. And as they've played half an hour, not much has happened yet. They've been a little bit at each end. There is a big chance on this one for the U18s. And the intake goalkeeper candidate put together a pretty big save on that one. Janssen, who's on a yellow, crosses for Owen, but that gets cleared away by the defense. Set up another corner kick, but no highlight for that one. Coming up on half time now. Defense clears that away, set up a corner kick. That was it, though, for the first half highlights. We're on to second half highlights now. Cantoni. Owen takes a deflection, out for a corner kick, and the quiet game continues. Candidates, first big chance for them of all game, and that goes just above and wide of the upper corner. Defense clears that away, out for a corner kick. Surprised the flag for offside was not raised, as the player that forced him into attempting that clearance was well offside. Nothing in that play made it look at all like a penalty would have been on the way, but the U18s take the 1-0 lead after converting the penalty. And a very drab game has it's gotten a score. Roberts, good recovery there. Janssen did not play that particularly well. Would have been a big chance. Now that looked like it could be a penalty. Contact made, ball runs through with neither player touching it. And if he doesn't make contact on the player, seemingly he's going to have a shot attempt. A chance on goal. Not a yellow card situation necessarily, but certainly looked like a foul may have been committed. Unlike the penalty that was given, that nothing was seen at all. Ball from outside the box, decent chance there, had plenty of bend on it, but the keeper makes the stop. Janssen again, cuts inside his man, gets a tap in for Owen. Tap in for Owen, but Janssen tries to take it himself, kicks it straight at the keeper. That's going to be out for a corner. Late minutes here. With the pressure on, the candidates are playing much better, but that was it. 14-7 on the shots. We have not seen the intake get this wasn't hammered. We haven't seen the intake lose to the U18s in a long time, but they lose this one. Again, there's your top talents. There's, 7 of them. Good talents had about 5. 3 of them listed here on the ones they think we should sign. Meanwhile, in the league, we're down to 8 matches left to play. In those 4 matches, I took 3 points, all 3 of them being draws. So 3 draws and 1 close loss in that stretch. Did see a slip to 17th in the league. Obviously not our best stretch. And there was actually a couple winnable games in there. But anyway, let's get in and see what this intake group looks like and just how bad is it. In terms of current ability, a 71 for Mueller is the best of the bunch, and it drops off very quickly to 60s and below. In fact, majority coming in below a 50, of which only a single current player even comes in anywhere remotely close, and that's nearly half of the intake. But we don't care about current ability, right? There's always time to develop. It's about the potential, and right off the bat, we're looking from Bramall and above. Don't have what it takes and are going to get released, and that is roughly half the intake right there. So very quickly, that is 8 intake players eliminated, and it turns out we actually do have a pretty good one here in Sean Owen. Center mid, attacking mid, which we have not been using this year, but eventually as we stabilize, we would want to go back to our more attacking formation. So it looks like natural position is going to be as a striker. Dribbling and finishing is there to help in that department. Good off-the-ball movement, high determination. This is a guy who could and should develop quickly depending on some of those hidden attributes. Kovalenko definitely comes in with good potential. O'Brien, Edwards, Janssen are all worth signing, but even at their best, they're not going to really be championship level equivalent, but certainly could be good enough to sell for a profit at some stage. And then you're getting into the trickier zone, guys. 3 guys who may have enough, may not really have enough about them. Realistically, 5 are sure signings, and 3 are maybes. Doesn't appear to be as bad as what it was saying intake-wise, but nothing great. I mean, we're looking at 2 good players who fit into the mold. Looking at our U21s, right? There's a lot of 130 potential groups, plenty of 120s, not much left over in lower categories. I mean, pretty much a 110, a 115 and above is about all that we have left. Now, for our main squad, we got 4 guys that are in the 140s. Nothing of that sort came into this intake. We've got only a few of the 130s that are even there. A lot of 120s and below. So actually it's a lower group, and we've got better potential down lower on. For that comparison, we're looking at an intake that was, I guess, average, right? There's some higher end guys that we didn't live up to the standard of. But we've got a lot of players that have been around for a long time that were kind of a lower tier quality, and we've got a lot more potential out there. If they could just build and get to that, we can change the depth and improve the squad. But even then, there's a lot of guys that are only kind of just good enough for a champion, and really only 2 guys that are going to be good enough that can maybe play Premier League level. I think Premier League level is at least a 130 plus. So not all bad, but definitely not very good. And those bottom 3 guys may not get a contract. Kind of finding it highly unlikely that I will give them a contract at this point. I think our standard needs to be 120 and above. Certainly needs to be 115 and above. So Molyneux, but he's a wingback, left side, which is definitely a position that we are lacking depth in. So maybe he gets signed, but it's just not somebody who I think is really good enough for us. So I'll sort that out. I'll figure that out. But it does appear, regardless of not the best couple of weeks here, I think we're still well set to be comfortable. We're only 9 points ahead. West Brom has made some progress. We were 15 ahead just a little bit ago, 4 games ago. In 4 games, we slipped down a little bit. So, yeah, it's not a done deal on safety yet, but I don't think we're too far off from that. Intake has not left me inspired. There are some concerns regarding that. The financial losses continue to happen rather rapidly. So right now it's coming down a lot on, do we get safety, and does our reputation take a big jump because of it? Because right now it's still pretty dang low, and we need it. And just 2 weeks ago we had over 4 million, and we're now down to 3.5. So at this rate, we're going to be pretty damn close to broke by the end of the season. So yeah, we're not in the clear. There's good things happening, but there's plenty of concerns remaining. It's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.